I am Nitro Dave, the CEO of Nitrous Outlet, and I am going to review Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0, our first one. Okay, whenever you report to the first event location, they will give, once you make your first, so you register and you go through tech, and once you have went through tech, you will end up making some passes. At that point in time, you have the ability to change classes if you realize that you didn't really fit in the class you thought you were going to. After you turn in that day's time slips, they will give you your first route. The route will go through checkpoints. And so that's going to be your route to the next track. At these checkpoints, you are to take a picture of your vehicle in front of whatever they designated, whether it's a sign or a building, whatever it may be. And on the front of your car is your number, and the number has to be clearly visible. What we learned on the last event is we would go in and take our map, and we would lay it out in checkpoints with Google Maps or whatever have you. And somehow that did really well for us for the first few stops. The last stop, it really it got us lost twice, got us off track. We ended up taking one of the wrong routes, which ended up getting us penalized for the day. And what that ended up doing is we ended up taking an automatic 20-second time slip. And for people that aren't familiar with this event, the track days, you're pretty much racing yourself. So let's say you're in the 12.0 class. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to come as close to a 12.0 without going any faster than that of an average of the 4 tracks. So each day you turn in a slot. You may make 4 or 5 passes, and you're going to turn in your best time slip to get you closest to that 12.0. If you haven't been able to go, if you've went faster than that 12.0 ever pass, you're in trouble, because you're going to turn in an 11-second slip, and that's automatically going to put you in the 11.0 class, which means you're probably running 11.99 or 11.90 or something like that. So you don't want to do that. You want to be able to try to dial it into a 12.0. Okay, so then we got penalized, and it hurt our average. And the reason why, so Lisa at the time was spot number 21 out of 50, which put her in the middle of the field. We had went through a series of braking and fought that for 2 days, so we couldn't really turn the car up to go closer to 12.0 because it would break the drive shaft every time we did. So the day that we went off route, we were called out on it the next day, and after we looked it up, we sure enough did go off route. And so we took luckily we weren't disqualified because we obviously weren't intentionally cheating, but it did give us a 20 for the day, which put us at the end of the field, and there's really no coming back from that. So stay on the route. Follow the piece of paper they give you. Don't trust your electronics. And if you are using your electronics, as you're going throughout your route for the day, make sure that you are following the piece of paper and watching. It is helpful to have a little trailer behind your hot rod because it gives you more storage space. Anything that you're going to use on race week, you have to haul yourself. So tires, tools, parts, whether it's an extra fuel pump, gas. The only thing you're allowed to use that somebody else can haul is gas. And they have to give it to you at a gas station. So basically like you're gassing up. It's good to have like a moving blanket to lay on in case you break down on the side of the road because the roads are hot. A canopy for shade, just like one of the little 10x10s. A cooler with some drinks, and any parts that are proprietary to your hot rod vehicle, whether it's fuel pump or whatever it may be that you're not going to get on the road. Now, if you do break, you can ship parts to an auto parts store or to the racetrack, and you can buy parts from your locals or borrow from another racer. But if you break, if you break at a racetrack, that car cannot be moved to the next location. You have to fix it at that racetrack before you make the drive to the next racetrack. So if you can't make that drive and make it to the next racetrack, you're out. And so this event was a little different than normal because normally I think they only take like 250 cars and people show up hoping to get in. And registration filled up like in minutes on this race. They ended up allowing all the cars that showed up, which was 314 cars, which was the first for them. And it was a lot of cars. And by the end of the event, only 44 of them had dropped out. So that's pretty good odds. I mean, like each racetrack, there was a lot of people there. Nebraska, when we went to Kearney, Nebraska, they actually said that that's the most people they've ever had at that racetrack. So we were pretty impressed to see the amount of people there doing it. Emergency supplies. I want to say water for the first day because, man, I'm going to tell you, this event was so brutally hot. If you break down, or not even break down, some of these guys, man, they're troopers. Their cars don't have no AC. They're running hot. They're jumping. There was people that jumped in the lake, just in the creeks, just to cool off. Sunscreen, like all those things to protect you from the elements. But then at the same time, you're going to need stuff like we had a trailer flat, and so a tire plug kit, a little air tank with some air. I'm going to say emergency supplies is basically just it's going to go mostly with your components to carry in your tracer, your trailer, and your stuff. First aid kit would be good. And just staying hydrated. A flashlight in case you drive in the late afternoons. That's probably about most of your emergency supplies. Nowadays, everybody's taking credit cards and debit cards, so the needs for spendable cash isn't as great as it used to be. But if you end up somewhere and you break a drive shaft and a local brings you a drive shaft, pay that guy with some cash. And so for the aspect of having liquidable cash, it would be a good idea to have a few $100s at least. The good thing is along the routes, there's ATMs, there's all this other stuff. So it's not as critical. I think I spent I had $300 or $400 cash on me the whole time. And so, you got to have cash for registration and all that stuff. But once you get past registering and all that stuff, you just need some cash. You can use your debit card and credit cards for restaurants and gas and all that stuff. But you need some cash for parts and stuff like that if you break down. Maybe a little tip money for people helping you out and stuff like that. Anybody that knows me tends to know that I don't half-ass anything. I think I signed up for a lot of abuse because we took the vending trailer, which is also our race trailer. So we loaded up 2 cars, the vending trailer, which means all of our parts were up top, apparel, all that type of stuff. I brought 3 guys from the shop, 2 guys to work the trailer, and 1 guy to video the event. And then I brought my entire family. So I had Lisa and both of our kids. The kids were really good. Normally they pick at each other and fight nonstop. So I think we were pretty fortunate in that event. But it was brutally hot. I'm thinking back to the days before the event. We crunched for 3 weeks to get Stitch ready. Stitch is a pro-charged and nitrous 427 from Thompson Motorsports. we put a gear vendor overdrive to make it more drivable, and we put a bigger fuel cell and stuff, but it don't have any air condition. It's got open fenderettes at headers. And I watched, we ran into some oiling problems the day that we were supposed to leave for the event, and it got too late for us to get it fixed. So we took our little single cab, which ran the best of a 1463, and it started off like mid-17s. We just kept picking at it in the event. It's very slow. It's a 200-some thousand mile 4.8. And so, and then we took Haas, which is our 99 Hugger Orange SS, and it's got a LS2 in it with a set of amp LS6 heads and a BTR camshaft, and some, both of the vehicles obviously have nitrous. Ty, which turned 16 on the trip, rode with Lisa, and Harper, which is 7, rode with me. I don't know that Harper and I, either one, would have made it through the first half of the trip if we would have taken Stitch. I watched the guys with no air condition through this trip, and cars that, they're hot rods. They're not really meant to drive 1,500 miles. Man, those guys are troopers. I don't know if I've just gotten soft in my old age, but my enthusiasm of taking Stitch on that long drive quickly came to an end after about the first to second day. And I realized, I don't think I'd want to do that. But, we had the vending trailer to tear down and put up every single day, take care of both cars, which Lisa broke the Camaro twice. And, feed the kids, take care of the kids, help customers. We signed up for a lot. And as a result, at the end of the day, you finish racing about 10 o'clock, get the trailer racked up. You get back to the hotel about 11:30, 12 o'clock. You sleep, you get up early, and you start it all over again the next day. There is no sleeping in. It was a lot of work. It really was. I think if we were to do it again, and we will do it again, but I think when we do it again, we'll simplify the vending trailer. We're going to build a new vending trailer. This tearing it down, putting it up, doing all that stuff every day, that's too much. And we're going to haul the cars separate. A much smaller trailer. Our trailer is, it's huge. I mean, it's a stacker with a lift inside of it, and all the racing stuff, and then your vending stuff, and 2 cars, and it's just too much. I think we're going to simplify it to just a vending trailer, and make it to where it's not so much work. It was too much work for us. I think if we would have went as just racers and just taken our couple of vehicles and small trailer, to pull behind our vehicle with our tools, and like we did, and didn't have to do all the vending stuff, I think it probably would have been less work, which would have made it more enjoyable. I had Chad at Phil's Trailers build us a 4x8 trailer specifically for this event. And it's all aluminum to be lightweight, easy to pull down between the mountains. And the mountains were a lot of up and down, and so you got to be careful on the brakes, turns. The roof would tilt, and the back door would tilt down, and so several ways of getting into it. I did not do a real good job packing the trailer. Everything was not really organized. It was all in boxes and thrown on top of each other. But inside the trailer, I had our tent, I had our cooler, I had our race gear, our clothing, which whenever you bring the family is a lot of baggage. Ty's Xbox, laptop. I mean, we had a ton of stuff in there. We had the tools that we needed, the jack stands, basically anything we needed to be able to run the course of maintaining our cars out of that trailer. Because we were walking a fine line, because we have the vending trailer and we have the race car trailer. And the rules state that you cannot have a mule. And so we had to be really careful not to overstep with our vending trailer becoming a mule for these cars. And so we were very conscious about that, because we knew that we were walking a fine line because we were carrying this vending trailer. And so we we made sure that everything worked out of the race trailer. The rules state that if the trailer does not have brakes, the vehicle must have slotted rotors. And the truck that I pulled the trailer with did have slotted rotors. And I can tell you that by probably halfway, 3/4 through the mountains, the first day come from Pueblo to Denver, my brakes started vibrating whenever it would brake, like warped rotors. And it went away at the end of the trek. It was literally just the brakes getting hot. And so I could see the advantage of putting trailer brakes even with slotted rotors. They want the slotted rotors to dissipate the heat off of it. And pulling over and letting things cool off. We decided instead of our staff wanted to experience the event, so they drove our truck, which is a 3500 Denali dually, and a 34-foot enclosed stacker through the mountains. And I'm telling you, the transmission was hot. The brakes were wore out. It's getting a brake job. It was abusive on the vehicle. A lot of people couldn't believe that we took that big rig through those roads and did that. But that was a great way for our entire. We wanted to experience the event. We've never seen it. A lot of us have always wanted to do it. So it was a great way. Instead of them shooting up the highway, they were able to take the same course we were, stop the checkpoints and do all that, and we were able to do that as a group, and that was really fun. In our case, the car that Lisa drove, the 99 Hugger Orange Camaro, it has a 12 bolt, but it had the stock aluminum drive shaft. The car's never been on a racetrack before. It's never had the tires planted to the concrete with stickiness. And every time it did, and we tried to give it any power, it would just wad that stock drive shaft up. That became pretty brutal. I mean, we broke it twice. We ended up doing drive shaft swaps 3 times. In the heat, with everything we had going on. So a lot of people love that thrash of working on it and doing it. I don't. I want to be able to drive it, enjoy it, and do very minor work. To be honest with you, preparing the vehicle for the track would have been a good move on our side. I know from owning a speed shop for years that the stock drive shafts are junk and they're not going to take any power. I never planned on putting this car on the track, and then it was like, hey, let's go do this. So it was an oversight on my part, and we paid the dues. So making sure that the components that you have on the car are set up to do this. Now, a lot of people are fighting issues with fuel pumps overheating, the car's overheating, brakes overheating, transmission overheating, fuel getting hot. I mean, dude, it was like blazing hot. And especially cars with big fuel pumps, it's circulating that fuel through the system, and it's returning back to the tank, just doing it over and over. And that's building up temperature in the fuel, which ends up burning the fuel pump out or overheating the fuel pump, and you have to pull it lower and let it cool off. Preparing the car and yourself for the abuse that you're about to put it through. I mean, look, these racers are a whole different. I mean, I go to tracks where we 1/8 mile race and 1/4 mile race, and that's what we love to do. This is definitely an endurance race. It's an endurance for your body. In my case, it became my mental state. Good morning. We're in Kearney. Where the hell are we?
Nebraska.
Kearney, Nebraska. Good morning. We're in Kearney, Nebraska.
Gilroy, the F-150.
We are in Kearney. Where are we at? And your vehicle. I mean, and these guys thrive off of it. They're like, hell yeah, we broke down. High five. And I'm like, hell no, I didn't want to break down. They're excited because they're working on it. And it's almost like a chest beating contest of who had the worst time and overcame it. That was really I think the real thrill is overcoming the hurdles for them. And it's a different type of racer. And it was enjoyable to see. And I don't think I can compete with any of those guys because I don't have that same desire for abuse that they do. these racers are like, I mean, they're like this. Everybody was super friendly. Pretty much any, let me back up a minute. It's not just these racers. Any place I go, racers are like that. But whenever you're going through something like this and you're traveling down these roads, it's not as easy as walking across the parking lot to get help, right? I mean, you don't just call your buddy up and go, hey man, can you come over to my pit and give me a hand? First of all, you're the only one, you and your co-driver are the only ones allowed to work on it, unless you've got a kid, and then you can assign one other person to help you work on it, which is what I did. Roger was my worker on it, because my 7-year-old daughter is not going to do a good job working on it. I don't even think she can hold the flashlight straight. So finding help at the racetrack is easy for parts, but you and your guy has to be the one working on it, okay? Now, on the drive, again, I was a rookie. I did not understand the thumbs up, thumbs down system they have going. And I passed a car. You know, we would pass people pulled over and they'd be like, hey, thumbs up, you know, and I thought they were just being like, hey, this is cool. And so I really didn't understand that was them saying, hey, I'm not broke down. I'm just chilling for a minute, cooling down. So no need to stop. Well, we passed a car where the guy thumbs down us. And I was like, maybe he thinks we suck. You know, like, I didn't know what the thumbs down was. And so we kept cruising like a bunch of buttholes. And I ended up posting on the Rocky Mountain Race Week Facebook group. And I'm like, hey, what does thumbs down mean? And they were like, that means he's broke down and he needs help. And I'm like, great. You know, like, so I felt like a real jerk at that point. So then we just made sure to stop for anybody that didn't give us a thumbs at all or whatever. So the system that you need to know going into this is thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up means keep going, we're good. Thumbs down means, hey, even if there's like in the case of the guy that I went by, he had like 8, 9 cars there with him. So I really didn't think, well, what it was is he probably needed parts. And so he was thumbs down and to get people to stop so he could see if they had that part, whatever it may have been, a belt or whatever. So that was a lesson learned for me. And it bugged me the whole trip because I felt like I should have pulled over and I didn't. And that's not a very sportsmanship-like thing. And it wasn't intentional. I just didn't know any better. Going from track to track. In this event, we went from Great Bend, Kansas to Pueblo, Colorado to Denver, Colorado to Kearney, Nebraska, and then back to Great Bend, Kansas. Whenever we hit Pueblo from Kansas, cars were already slowing down. Mostly the boosted cars for sure. The guys that had big turbos and stuff, they're struggling to get it to come up on the up on the 2-step. Because of that, we were able to sell several nitrous kits, which fits their problem because it's basically atmosphere in a bottle. But you know, like in our case, the car started running terrible. So as you get higher up in the altitude, their gas also goes to crap. So we went from, you know, Texas, we're 93 octane. We go up there and you're lucky to find 91 octane. Some of the pumps said 87 and 87. So it had two pumps. They both were 87 octane and one was 10% ethanol. You know, and so the car threw a check engine light. And we scanned it and it was a misfire code. So I thought, well, let's just check the plugs just in case. And so we pulled the plugs out of it. And I'm going to tell you that between the heat and the altitude, the car is not the only thing suffering. I wore smooth out. And I went to put the spark plugs back in it. And I gave up on the backhoe and Roger had to do it. I was on the passenger side second plug. And I spent 10 minutes trying to put the spark plug back in the head before I gave up and sat down. And I was just deliriously tired. And it turns out I never took the old spark plug out. So I just could not find the hole because it still had a spark plug in it. So not only were the cars running bad as we got up in altitude, and they weren't happy, neither were we. You know, and when we got back down to Kansas, we had cleared the codes on the car and the car was running better. I did stop at the gas station or O'Reilly's and buy some octane booster and pour in there to help out. But definitely, as you get up in altitude, the air molecule just isn't there, and so the boosted guys really suffered quite a bit, and you have to, from a tune-up aspect, you have to adjust the tune-up to for the altitude differences. So every one of the tracks we went to were really nice. Even, I honestly thought we were going to get in Kearney, Nebraska, and it was going to be a crap hole. It's in the middle of a cornfield. It's like some farmer just said, you know what, let's turn this section into a racetrack. But it was really nice. It was a nice facility. It wasn't as large as some of the other ones, and which is why we this event was big for them. Every one of the tracks were nice. The track prep, in my mind, I traveled all these racetracks. I don't care what you do. Whenever it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 105 degrees out, and the track temp is 146 degrees. It's going to be greasy. That's just so. As a racer, you have to adjust your car to be able to go down the track, especially if that's the time that you've been allocated to make your passes. As the weather goes, as the sun comes down and the track temp cools off, as long as they've stayed on top of it and they're working the track right, the track will get tight and you'll make some good passes. Whenever it seemed like in the afternoons the air temp cooled down and people went fast. And you know what? Lisa went her fastest pass that day. The day that we were disciplined for going off course, she had won a 12:19, and we're like, okay, we just put the drive shaft in it, and we were like, okay, we know what we need to do at the next track. So her and the kids went swimming, and we stayed worked the track, worked the trailer. But the track conditions are going to change according to the weather. And the temperature. The heat, they said that this event was hotter than it traditionally has been in any other events. And like I talked about with the fuel pumps overheating, the cars overheating and stuff, you have to pull over and let the cars cool off, especially whenever you're only doing 15, 20 miles per hour through the mountains. It's going to get hot. You just can't get enough airflow on it to cool it down. The guys that were driving these hot rods with no air condition, some of these hot rods, they were open tops. There's the sun's beating on them. They're old metal hot rods, no windows. Those guys, they're burning up, and they're pouring water on themselves, and they're doing what they can cool off. I tend to analyze everything, and so I'm looking at this event. I'm thinking, okay, the time to drive is right after racing at night. Drive to the next location. And there's nothing stopping you from doing that other than the fact that you are wore out, right? So you're like, if you planned ahead, so I'm thinking, okay, what's going to be the less work on the car? So if I was only racing, I think what I would do is me and my co-pilot would finish the track and drive straight to the next event and then sleep during the day. Some days are drive days only. So I would probably sleep more during the heat of the part. The problem with that is if you break down at night, no one else is driving and you're going to be stuck by yourself on the side of the road. So it has its pros and its cons. But I'm going to tell you that the first day that we broke, we did not get to drive with everybody else. We ended up driving by ourselves. And then the next day we got to drive with all the other hot rods. That was my favorite part. The tracks, to me, it's just another track day. But something about going through the mountains and making all the turns and looking in your side mirror and there being a line of hot rods, that's super cool. So that, to me, that was my favorite part. Years ago, when we were on the speed shop, it was either Drag Week or Horsepower Tour came to town. And I took my car up, which wasn't running. I actually pulled it up just for the show car part of it. And I thought, man, one of these days I want to do this. Well, our business is just being a monster all these years and just growing, and you just couldn't leave for a week. You just couldn't do it. And so James Goad told me, we were talking one day, and he said, dude, you got to do Rocky Mountain Race Week. Like, Matt and them, they got this down. They're racers. They know exactly what it needs to be. It is a blast. And I said, all right. So I decided, hey, we're going to do it. And I taught Lisa and the kids to go in, and we got everything ready. We thrashed for 3 weeks to get our vehicle ready, and I think that really just kind of put me in the wrong mindset, because before the day we even left, we were already wore out. And I watched the Facebook group, and that was part of the abuse everybody liked. Like 3 days before the event, they're like, I still don't have a motor. This is great. And it was, like I said, it's a chest beating contest of who's going through the worst abuse. And I didn't like that. I think being more prepared coming up on the event would have helped me be more rested and in a better mood. After we got in the car to leave, I already knew I was committed, but I didn't want to go anymore. Like, I was over it already. It didn't work out with the truck that I wanted to take, and so we made some adjustments, and I already had a bad attitude. And then, as a result, everybody else around you kind of gets a bad attitude because they're exhausted too, and the fun is gone. So I think being more prepared instead of the rush up to the event would make it more enjoyable for me. Now, some of those guys like that abuse, and that was their thing. Then planning ahead with hotels. I took for granted how many people were coming to these small towns, and I'm pretty picky where I stay. I like a cold air conditioner. I like a good hot shower, and I like to not have bugs in my bed. So I'm spoiled, all right? So plan ahead. If you know you're going to do this event, get your car ready before it's last minute. Take a test drive and make sure it's going to be able to make the drive. Line up your hotel rooms and have all that mapped out so that you don't have to make... Whenever you're out in that 100-degree weather all day, the last thing you want to do is go to a B&B that the AC cannot keep it cool and rust is coming out of the water fixture. Like, that's just... To me, that was like, I'm done. I'm going home. Screw this. Right then. And then that night, I got a little bit of sleep, and the rust worked its way out of the water system, and I was able to take a clean shower, and we got a couple passes underneath this the next day, and Lisa was smiling, and that was the turning point for me where I had fun. So I think preparation is the key for this event. Preparation of making sure you got everything stocked in your race trailer right, making sure that your vehicles are ready for the cruise and the abuse that you're about to put them through. Make sure that that your hotel rooms are lined up, and most of all, make sure you're rested so that you can enjoy it, because it is a really cool event. It is very challenging because it's nonstop. I was impressed with every one of this event to go to 5 racetracks within that amount of time. A lot of times whenever you go to a racetrack, they're going to have a bad day where nothing works right. They can't get nothing done. Maybe some of the employees have their head up their butt. I tend to stand back and analyze how well something's being ran, and I was impressed. This was ran very well. I seen Matt post on Matt Frost, which is I believe is the founder of this event, and him and his wife June, and I seen him post, "Hey guys, I'm sorry today didn't go as smooth as I thought it should have," and I thought it went awesome. And everybody's response was, "You did a hell of a job." So even though he knows the inner workings of how he wanted things to lay out, and he might have wished that something would have went a little something different that day, they did a phenomenal job. The event was a great experience, and for a rookie like me that had never done it before, people were very helpful. you just have to be willing to ask questions and communicate. This is not one of those events where you want to show up and be too proud to ask questions. If you're approachable and you're friendly, you're going to make friends on this event. Like everybody's so nice and everybody's there for the same reason. So my family, whenever we left, my family kept asking how come we couldn't go to the beach, and I told them it was a racecation, not a vacation. And so I thought it was funny. They didn't. But that's exactly what it was. This is a racecation. Like you're gonna take a week off from your daily life, and you're gonna go out and you're going to experience a very cool drive, a route that's put together with checkpoints for pictures, and you're going to experience meeting people that you've never met before. And for the people that do this every year, they're seeing people they probably hadn't seen in a year. And so it was a really cool event. I would not be afraid as one person to show up with your co-pilot not knowing anybody, because by the end of the event, you're going to know all kinds of people. If you are looking for a racecation and you're looking to do an endurance type race that is going to push the limits of your body and your car, and you're looking to meet a lot of really cool people in a well fine-tuned event, Rocky Mountain Race Week's the event for you.